Senate will please come to order. We'll begin this morning with a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements this morning? Seeing none, hearing none, we have one referral, House Bill H-183 being on the calendar for notice and affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the, excuse me.
I don't think that number is right.
Just conferring with the secretary. Okay, and just to confirm, we do not have any House referrals today.
430.
Oh, excuse me, H-431 affecting the expenditures of the state under Rule 31 is referred to the Committee on Appropriations. And this brings us right into the orders of the day. There's been a request to pass over S-115. And without objection, we will do so and move to H-140. We have on the calendar for third reading, H-140. Third reading was ordered on May 12th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H-140.
H-140, an act relating to approval of amendments to the charter of the town of Williston.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? So kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H-140 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H-225. Third reading was ordered on May 12th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H-225.
H-225, an act relating to possession of a therapeutic dosage of buprenorphine.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed H-225 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for third reading H-313. Third reading was also ordered on May 12th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H-313.
H-313, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to alcoholic beverage laws.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H-313 in concurrence. And finally, we have on the calendar for a third reading H-445, which was also ordered on May 12th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of H-445.
H-445, an act relating to approval of an amendment to the charter of the town of Underhill.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed H-445 in concurrence. We have on the calendar for action H-183, read for the first time on March 30th, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Judiciary, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as set forth on page 220 2126 to 2129 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H 183.
H 183, an act relating to sexual violence.
The senator from Bennington, Senator Sears, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Judiciary. Good morning, Senator. Kindly unmute. Thank you.
That's going to be on my tombstone. Kindly unmute. I keep forgetting to do that. Madam President, H 183 deals with consent, and the consent for, and it amends the definition of consent for sexual act. Your committee went through an awful lot of work to try to get this right. And part of the reason that we certainly want to get it right is the consequences for sexual assault in this state are quite severe. There's a 3-year minimum and a lifetime maximum, and aggravated sexual assault carries a 10-year minimum and a lifetime maximum sentence. The bill has been amended, and I'd like to speak to the amendment, Madam President.
You may.
In section 1, which is the definition section for the chapter on sexual assault, we amend the definition of consent, and that definition is amended so that with language that came from Oklahoma, and it states the affirmative consent means the affirmative, unambiguous, and voluntary agreement to engage in a sexual act, which can be revoked at any time. We also add a definition of incapable of consenting, which means a person is incapable of understanding the nature of the conduct at issue, is physically incapable of resisting, declining participation in, or communicating unwillingness to engage in the conduct at issue, or lacks the mental ability to make or communicate a decision about whether to engage in the conduct at issue. This is drawn from the military statutes as opposed to the federal civilian sex assault laws, which have not been revised since the mid-'80s. I should mention that our consent laws have not been revised in over 40 years. Madam President, the Section 2 of the bill prohibits engaging in a sexual act with someone when that person knows or reasonably should know that the other person is asleep, unconscious, or otherwise unaware that the sexual act is occurring. It specifically prohibits engaging in a sexual act with a person when that other person is incapable of consenting to the sexual act due to substantial impairment by alcohol, drugs, or other intoxicants and that condition is known or reasonably should be known by the person, regardless of whether the impaired person consumed the intoxicants willing or unwillingly. Madam President, that's particularly important to understand how this is developed, because it makes clear that it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who committed the sexual assault is the one that provided the alcohol or drugs, etc. In Minnesota, there's a recent case where it was thrown out because the person was intoxicated before by it by her own means rather than being given the intoxicating alcohol. And that, so we wanted to make clear that we would not, if you're incapable of consenting, it doesn't matter who gave you the alcohol or the drugs or whatever. Section 3, this section adopted in 1977 addresses what does not constitute consent and applies to offenses in sexual assault chapter as well as lewd and lascivious conduct. Section 4 and this section 3 also clarifies that submission to a sexual act that results from the use of force, threat of force, or placing another person in fear does not constitute consent. It also clarifies that consent cannot be demonstrated by evidence that is prohibited by the Vermont Rape Shield law. And it also clarifies that a sleeping or unconscious person cannot consent. It also makes clear that there is no consent if the actor knew or reasonably should have known that the other person was incapable of consenting, the other person was aware that the act was occurring, the other person was incapable of consenting to the sexual act or lewd and lascivious conduct with the actor because the person was substantially impaired by alcohol, drugs, or other intoxicants. Section 4 of the bill directs the Vermont Sentencing Commission to examine whether application of 13 VSA 3254 trial procedure regarding consent to 13 VSA 2601 lewd and lascivious conduct continues to be inappropriate given recent amendments to 13 VSA chapter 59 regarding lewdness and prostitution. This is needed because the General Assembly essentially split the offense of lewd and lascivious into two offenses, one lewd and lascivious and the second prohibited conduct in 2017. And we'd like an assessment as to whether the application of the consent statute should still apply to lewd and lascivious or prohibited conduct. And prohibited conduct, Madam President, is your basic prostitution laws and so forth. Section 5 requires the Department of Public Safety to provide a statistical report to the General Assembly on September 1st, 2024, and biannually thereafter based on data from the National Incident-Based Reporting System and the Vermont Judiciary on the number of sexual violence cases reported to law enforcement, the number that are being referred to prosecutors, and the number of cases charged and the disposition of such cases. Madam President, your Judiciary Committee worked with the Appropriations Committee and removed a section that had to do with forensic nurse examinations. We have in a rural state many places where someone cannot get to a forensic examiner, and this would expand that. And it was for $40,000, and that was appropriated in the big bill rather than in this bill. So that was removed by your Judiciary Committee. Additionally, a study on campus sexual violence was removed by Judiciary, and the Education Committee has taken that up, and we will hear an amendment shortly, I think, from the Education Committee on that particular section of the bill. So that's your bill from Senate Judiciary and our amendments to the House version. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. And the Senator from Bennington, Senator Sears, is also further recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Madam President, as I said, the Appropriations Committee supports the bill on a 7-0-0 vote. And as I said, the appropriations were removed from the bill, but I believe we'll see some from the amendment shortly. I've also neglected to mention the Judiciary Committee's vote was 5-0-0.
Thank you, Senator. And I may come back to you after the amendments offered.
Okay.
The senator from Rutland, Senator Hooker, is recognized for her amendment. Or excuse me, Senator Lyons is recognized. The senator from Chittenden, the senior senator, Senator Lyons, is recognized for her amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. In fact, the amendment is signed on to by all members of the Education Committee. And this amendment really is critically important. As many of us are aware, a week or so ago, many students at the University of Vermont marched to demonstrate and demonstrated to bring attention to sexual assault on campus and the need for improvements to a system that would allow for students to report, to be heard, and to then have whatever necessary steps taken to adjudicate problems associated with sexual assault on campus. 1 in 5 female students will be assaulted at some point during their career. 1 in 5 transgender students are also similarly sexually assaulted on college campuses. And females 18 to 24 students are 4 times as likely as women in other age groups to experience sexual violence. This is unacceptable. 39% of those who report sexual violence at school are disrupted in their educational endeavors. Some leave school, some take time off, and some transfer. Institutions of higher learning cannot solve the problems alone. The complexity of the issues demand coordination, resources, and approaches to ensure that there are appropriate responses and campus prevention efforts. Our committee looked very much at what can we put in place that will help prevent further sexual assaults on campus. So, Madam President, we'll go through the bill and I'll add information as we go through. We've added a Section 6 on Intercollegiate Sexual Harm Prevention Council. In 2019, there was a task force on campus sexual harm, and that task force met for 9 months and gave some recommendations. One of the recommendations of that task force was to establish a council to further analyze changes to campus procedures and linkage with municipalities and perhaps with the judicial system or with public safety, and to make improvements around prevention. So the council that we have put in place is made up of a number of Title IX coordinators on campuses across the state. So most of us think of Title IX as an opportunity to bring equity in athletics, but Title IX goes beyond that. And Title IX coordinators on campuses are responsible for not just equity in athletics, but also for sexual harassment and violence mitigation. Also responsible for protecting and supporting transgender students while they are on campus. I'll read a quote for Title IX, one of the Cornell law. No person in the U.S. shall, based on sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any education program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Madam President, I should have asked for permission to read that.
Permission granted. Thank you.
Thank you. And after the fact. What that means is that Title IX has a broad reach across campus to look at all possible sexual harms that may occur, whether it's in the classroom, on the athletic field, or in campus activities. So the Title IX folks who are on the council become very important to understanding both federal and state regulations, as well as to the extent of needs within campus activities. The council will also include 2 community-based sexual violence advocates, law enforcement, college students, one of whom has had lived experiences with sexual violence, a person with expertise in sexual violence, most importantly, a sexual assault nurse examiner. As the senator from Bennington has indicated, these folks are critically important for supporting victims of sexual violence when they, just after that violence or assault has occurred. And they are very specialized in the work that they do. Also on the council is a prosecutor with experience in these types of cases, as well as an attorney in these cases appointed by the Defender General. So this links in with the judicial system external to campuses. And then the council duties, I think, are probably critically important. As I mentioned before, the previous task force met for only 9 months. This council will continue to meet for a longer period of time up until 2025, which will allow for these folks to work through some of the complexities that we see on college campuses and within our communities related to sexual violence in our state. The duties of the council will be to implement interdisciplinary planning and information sharing, to support sexual violence prevention programs, undertake an annual review of trends in aggregate data collected by institutions of higher learning regarding sexual violence, identify and share effective practices on violence prevention, sexual health education, and strategies for mitigating sexual harm and secondary impacts of sexual harm on college campuses. As I mentioned earlier, the secondary effects may be that a student reporting sexual harm or violence might decide to leave and not continue studying, or might transfer. But the harm done to the individual can be irreparable. The fifth duty that we have assigned to the council is to identify campus-wide activities, publications, and services that promote a culture of respect to support the prevention of sexual harm. Your Education Committee feels that this is absolutely critical. It is unfortunate that today we focus on the linkage with public safety, we focus on judicial remedy, but we also need to focus on how to improve the campus environment, the climate, and the culture so that these types of activities do not happen going forward. The last recommendation is to provide statutory protections, recommendations for statutory protections to the General Assembly not later than November 2021 to ensure that survivors of sexual harm are not punished for reporting an incident of sexual violence due to alcohol, drug use, or other minor conduct violations occurring in or around the time of an assault. And would go back to also to mention and to reiterate that this is critically important because so few of those who are harmed actually report the harm in the first place. It's something like 20% of those who have been assaulted actually report that assault. So this protecting those survivors and those folks would allow for them to feel more comfortable on the campus and to report the issues. So, Madam President, the council will have assistance from the Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. So the part of the Section 6 talks about the functioning of the council itself. There is a repeal in place for the council, the Sexual Harm Prevention Council that we've been talking about. That doesn't happen until 2025. Hopefully, to give adequate time for this council to complete some of its work and to make recommendations that can begin to turn the Titanic. In other words, there's a lot of work to be done here across campuses. Institutional-wide change is never easy, and this must be one of the hardest for our campuses to consider, along with our public safety folks external to the campus and our judiciary system external to the campus. The complexity that we see between campuses and our municipal and state authorities cannot be underestimated. So having time for that work to happen is critically important. There is an appropriation in Section 8 for approximately $12,000 for the Center for Crime Victim Services to provide grants to pursue for the purpose of staffing the council. There's also $1,000 appropriated to provide compensation for those who are not otherwise reimbursed for their work on the council. And then the effective date, which is July 1st, 2021. Your Senate Education Committee heard from Michelle Childs, Legislative Counsel, Wendy Koenig, UVM Legislative Liaison of Federal and State Relations, Sarah Robinson, Deputy Director of Vermont Network Against Domestic and Sexual Violence, whose information was extremely helpful to this report, and then Patricia Turley, General Counsel of the Vermont State College's Office of the Chancellor. Mr. President, Madam President, we'd like to thank the Judiciary Committee for asking us to work on this issue. It is a critically important issue. I've probably taken a little longer than you might think necessary, but this is a campus activity across the state that needs to be mitigated and eliminated and prevented. And so thank you again to Senate Judiciary for sending this work our way, and that is the report of Senate Education.
Thank you, Senator. So I will take a brief moment of personal privilege. I do have a jar here that is the Madam President jar. And I am going to put $1 into it because Senator McDonald has contributed to it. Just anytime we have a Mr. President, we're going to put the $1 in there. So for coffee next year. Okay, but to the business. The senator from Chittenden has proposed that the report of the Committee on Judiciary be amended, and the senator from Bennington, Senator Sears, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. The Senate Judiciary Committee truly appreciates the work of the Senate Education Committee and supports the amendment on a 5-0-0 vote. And I might add that the Appropriation Committee was aware of the amendment and supports the $12,000 and roughly $12,000 in funding, or $13,000 in funding for the work of the council. But obviously we voted the bill out before the amendment was voted on. So,
thank you, Senator. And the senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to just rise to thank my colleagues who worked on this amendment. When I heard that the Judiciary Committee was considering removing the section, or in fact did remove the section on a campus sexual harm task force, I reached out to the chair of the committee and asked that he reconsider and maybe bring in the Education Committee, and reached out to the chair of the Education Committee. So I want to thank both the chair of Judiciary and the chair of Education for moving this along and providing an opportunity for more testimony on the importance of this council. And I also want to thank all of the advocates and survivors of sexual harm on campuses for pushing this issue and making sure that this could move forward. I am a survivor of campus sexual harm, both in high school and in college. So this issue is incredibly important to me. I am also the mother of college and high school aged children, 2 daughters and a son. And I am a senator who represents the college campus, where there are thousands of students who are my constituents. And it's really important that we have a statewide coordinated approach to dealing with campus sexual harm, from the perspective of criminal and restorative justice, from the perspective of harm mitigation, and from the perspective of sexual violence prevention on campus. no campus, big or small, is immune to this. And as the senator from Chittenden said in her very wonderful and detailed report on this amendment, more than 1 in 5 women on campus will be the victims of sexual assault or harm. And that's just not acceptable. And I can tell you, the senator from Bennington mentioned that the consequences of sexual assault are great. They are severe, and he is correct. They are severe for the survivors of sexual assault, most especially. It is a lifetime to deal with the implications of sexual assault. So I just want to thank my colleagues who made sure that this moved forward, especially my colleagues from the Senate Education Committee for their thorough and important work on this issue. And I look forward to the results of the work of this council as it moves forward with its duties. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the report of the Committee on Judiciary be amended as recommended by the senior senator from Chittenden and others? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the report of the Committee on Judiciary as recommended by the senior senator from Chittenden and others. The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary as amended? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Addison is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I inquire of the reporter of the bill?
You may.
Thank you. I appreciate the careful work of all the committees on this, and the language in today's calendar on page 2126, the very first definition, there are ellipses there, so I don't know the full context, but my understanding is that one of the challenges in this work is to have specificity around all the terms we're using. And there are many things here that help us understand what a lack of consent is. But I'm looking at in that very first definition 3, and when it refers to an affirmative, unambiguous, and voluntary agreement, can you just say a little bit about what constitutes an agreement, how someone knows that has been obtained?
That's an extreme. Let me back up just a little bit. This was one of the most difficult sections for the Senate Judiciary Committee to work on, because current law kind of tells you what it's not what consent is. And so we wanted to look at current law says, words or actions by a person indicating a voluntary agreement to engage in a sexual act. That's current law. The House had added the word knowing to that. We struck that section and added the affirmative, unambiguous, and voluntary agreement to engage in a sexual act, which can be revoked at any time. And I believe not only do I believe, what the committee intends with this is that you know when you know it, that it's a voluntary agreement between two persons to have a sexual act, and it's not forced by either one, but also understanding that at any time during that act, that consent can be revoked at any time. So it's sort of like, I can't remember the justice's name who was asked to define pornography and said, you know it when you see it. I think in some ways, I think we know when someone's agreeable. And I think we're also, we should know. And I think that's what's important here. It's not what it's not, it's what it is. I don't know if that helps answer the question.
Well, it does, and it's just in reading and thinking about it, I was aware that it's not, as you say, the revocability of that agreement seems important, and I was just trying to understand how you fenced it in and defined it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary as amended? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Judiciary as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read for the third time? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H 183. We have on the calendar today H 434, an act relating to establishing the Agricultural Innovation Board. The House has proposed an amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment as set forth on page 2132 of today's calendar. The underlying question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment? The senator from Rutland, Senator Collmore, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Agriculture.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators may remember this Bill 434, which does indeed create an Agricultural Innovation Board. The House concurred with all of the Senate proposals, but they did offer a further amendment on their part. In the Senate proposal, the powers and duties of the Seed Review Panel were transferred to the new Agricultural Innovation Board. One of those powers is the requirement to approve the sale, distribution, or use of new genetically engineered seed in the state prior to any sale or use. This limits the authority of the Secretary of Agriculture to exercise his or her general authority over the use of seeds. And because the accountability and responsibility for the seed law ultimately rests with the Secretary of Agriculture, the House proposed to change the Agricultural Innovation Board's authority over new genetically engineered seed. The board will advise the Secretary regarding the sale, distribution, or use of new genetically engineered seed, and the board may also make recommendations on limits or conditions of the sale or use of those new seeds. The Senate Committee on Agriculture supports this amendment, as the committee believes the accountability for the regulation of seeds should properly lie with the Secretary of Agriculture. The committee vote was unanimous. We ask the Senate to concur and to support the amendment. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The question is, shall the Senate concur with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment on H 434? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've concurred with the House proposal of amendment to the Senate proposal of amendment on H 434. This concludes the orders of the day. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Pending announcements, I move that the Senate stand in adjournment until Friday, May 14th at 10 a.m.
The senator from Windham has moved that, subject to any announcements, the Senate do adjourn until Friday, May 14th at 10 a.m. Are there any announcements? The senator from Washington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Finance will meet at 1:30.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Government Operations will meet at 1.
Thank you. Are there any additional announcements? The senator from Bennington is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate Education will meet at 1 p.m.
Thank you. And the senator from Caledonia.
Thank you, Madam President. Senate institutions, if you would keep an eye on your mailbox. I do understand the other body has approved our amendments with an offer of further amendment. And as soon as that document is delivered to me, I would like to make sure that we are all on the top of that so that we can plan a meeting to discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional announcements? I do have one announcement. The House has requested a committee of conference on H 449, an act relating to the membership and duties of the Vermont Pension Investment Commission and the creation of the Pension Benefits Design and Funding Task Force. Pursuant to the request of the House, the Committee on Committees has met and appoints the following senators as members of the Committee of Conference on H 449. Senators White, Polina, and Collmore. Hearing no further announcements, seeing no further announcements, the senator from Wyndham has moved that the Senate adjourn until Friday, May 14th at 10 a.m. Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and the Senate stands adjourned until Friday, May 14th at 10 a.m.